Sometime back, I was involved in the activity of refrigeration. I thought, why not make a small presentation on refrigeration? It should be over in 5 or 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but nonetheless, people would know how a simple refrigeration device works or how a refrigerator works. Without various kinds of cooling systems, uh, life of humanity would be difficult for various reasons. I store food in freezers, I air condition buildings, I even condition buildings. Condition building is maintaining the constant pressure and temperature as done in inside aircrafts. There might be many refrigerated trucks going from one part of the world to other part of the world, carrying various kinds of foodstuffs. Since you keep it cold, they don't get spoiled or damaged. How does this activity of refrigeration work? Is a matter that we have to understand. One of the principles around which refrigeration works is that when any element changes its state, it takes in heat. How do I explain this? Pressure and temperature being key factors. Let me see if we are boiling water. When I boil water, at normal temperature and pressure, water is a liquid. When I give it heat and bring it up to 100 degrees centigrade, it begins to evaporate and gives you steam. That is the property of water. Under atmospheric pressure and temperature, water is a liquid. If I have to change its state, I have to give it heat. In a frozen state, it becomes ice. In a frozen state, it becomes ice. It becomes ice when it gives away heat. And water gives away heat. It becomes ice. I hope I'm not confusing. But understand that under atmospheric pressure and temperature, water is a liquid. If I give it heat, pressure keeps remaining the same, it boils at 100 degrees centigrade. If I reduce the pressure, it will boil not at 100 degrees centigrade, it will boil at more than 100 degrees centigrade. If I increase the pressure, water will boil at less than 100 degrees centigrade, depending upon the pressure I feed. Or more precisely said, I can make water boil by keeping the temperature the constant but increasing the pressure to a very high extent. Water will begin to take heat from the surroundings and boil. That's the essence of the matter, the game between pressure and temperature. Many elements we find in this world are under room temperature and atmospheric pressure, are gaseous in nature. Now, how does refrigeration work? In a simple idea. The key component of a refrigerating system is a refrigerant. There are many kinds of refrigerants. I think ammonia is a refrigerant. Ammonia is a refrigerant. It might be unsafe if there's ammonia leak, so possibly they use some other kind of safer refrigerants. What is the peculiar nature of a refrigerant? Under room temperature and atmospheric pressure, Your refrigerant is a liquid. The moment I increase the pressure of on the refrigerant changes state from liquid to gaseous state by taking heat from the environment. I think I've made a significant point. Refrigerant, if the key aspect of any refrigeration system is a refrigerant. A refrigerant is circulated through a closed system using a motor which acts as a pump, a centrifugal pump. A centrifugal pump creates rotary motion, and within a closed system, it will pump the refrigerant through a large network or even small confined networks, making the environment around it cold. But the key element of any refrigeration system is a refrigerant. If there is no refrigerant, there is no refrigeration. Now let us explain this slightly a bit further. But a it's a pump. Pump has got an impeller on one end, centrifugal pump. When I switch on the power, the pump begins to the motor begins to rotate. So does the impeller. When the impeller rotates, it creates a tangential force, thereby moving, forcing the refrigerant through the pipes. There might be some kind of an bay or some kind of a repository where you keep the refrigerant also. It may not be just, that means I'm literally pumping it. It is like I can have a sump, a small sump in that system which stores refrigerant and pumps refrigerant through the circuit. Now let us see how simple, just understand this the simplicity. Let us see how a simple refrigerator works. When I switch on the power, the pump begins to circulate the refrigerant, which in its normal state is the liquid state. When I pump, I'm careful to increase the pressure. How do I increase the pressure? For all practical purposes, I have a very, I have a tube or a pipe or a conduit which is of very less diameter. When I pump the refrigerant, liquid refrigerant through that structure, you can see that it is like corrugated and it's of a small diameter. It runs through the heart of your refrigerator, runs through the heart of the refrigerator, those small tubes, small tube. The diameter of the tube is very small. When I pump and refrigerant goes through that tube, which is corrugated, pressure increases. When pressure increases, the refrigerant has the nature of transmuting itself from the liquid state into the gaseous state. To do so, it takes heat. It takes heat from within your refrigerator. The refrigerator must be closed, otherwise the refrigerator will not give you the necessary cold temperature inside. That's why it's a closed system. I close and keep it. But as the refrigerant gas, it becomes gas from liquid, it pulls heat from within the refrigerator, making the refrigerator cool. Now what do I do at the other end? Once it exits from within my refrigerator, the tube, I increase the diameter of the tubes reasonably higher, and the whole gaseous component begins to expand. When it expands, pressure is less again, and the vapor becomes liquid again. And it goes through what's called as an evaporator. Evaporator means nothing but I've got a large tubes, big tubes. The diameter is much higher of those tubes. When it passes through that, it gives away the heat to the environment. And again, it comes down into the pump, will push it into the narrow tubes. So essentially, within my refrigerator system, I have got a refrigerant which successively changes state from first liquid to gaseous state, from gaseous state back to liquid state, to aid the process of refrigeration. What a beautiful technology and invention. Possibly we are in the business of having more, even better quality refrigerants than what we have now, but a beautiful system which cools and keeps many things palatable. Refrigeration is an important component of supply chain studies and management. Supply chain management. Refrigeration must be what I have so far talked about. Refrigeration, any supply chain management professional must know, because he is dealing with refrigeration systems across the supply chain to keep many of the things preserved over a long distance. So what I learned some time back, I thought of communicating to people around the world so that even a layman understands how refrigeration works. Thank you very much. This is Subhash, P.O. Subhash from Bangalore, India.